We're going to continue on with the outdoor table build, and today we're going to go in detail with this little hole right here, also known as a mortise. Now this little hole is the other half of the mortise and tenon joint. This is a very simple joint. It's a very simple process, very quick, very simple, and it can be done within a matter of minutes. Now there's two ways that you can do this. The first, you can do it by a chisel. You can chop out the whole entire mortise. Or you can use a brace and bit. This way right here is one of my favorite ways because it gets tons of the material out of the way before you even have to use a chisel. That to me saves time and energy. So how do you set this joint up? Very simple. Let's jump into it. First thing that you need to do to set this joint up is either have two marking gauges or have a mortising gauge. This one has two separate little scribes on it to make your marks for where you want to line up your joint. Your first point, which is this very top one, is going to be the furthest point that you're going to have. The second point is moved by this thumb screw down on the bottom, and it actually controls the width of your mortise. So to get your first point, what you need to do is figure out the furthest point from the outside edge of whatever you're using, and that's going to be where you're going to set your fence at. So right here I've got my first point set up out here because I know that I want it 3/4 of an inch off this outside edge. Now to get your second point, that is going to determine the width of your mortise, and that is usually controlled by whatever size chisel you're going to be using. So I've got a 1/2 inch chisel right here, and I have moved the thumb screw out and this second little scribe so I can fit this 1/2 inch chisel in between the 2 points. So I have got my leg right here, and I've determined that this edge and this edge right here are going to be my two outside faces. So now I'm going to be making a mortise right in this section and right in this section. So now what I want to do is, because this is my outside edge, I'm going to be making the fence right along that spot, and I'm just going to make the mark for where the mortise is going to go. After I've gotten that scribed out, I've got my tenon that I'm going to be putting into this mortise right here, and I'm simply going to be lining it up with this top face right here. And as you can see, I've got a bigger gap right here than on this. That is so I don't crack any of this leg, so I've left more room up top. So I'm just simply taking a pencil right here. You can use a marking knife, whatever you wish, and I'm just getting the length of the mortise right now. I'll come back with a square. You can use any kind of square. You can use a speed square. You can use one of these little squares right here. So I'll just make my mark right there, and one for the top section. And that is the basis of your mortise right there. You've got your two sides and your top and bottom. So now comes the part that I like to consider the real time saver of this whole thing. You can take a chisel and chop back and forth and knock out whatever amount of wood you need to, or you can simply take a hand drill. I've got the brace and bit right here, and my brace or my bit is just slightly smaller than the mortise, and I'll just drill the hole. So we got the first one right here. That one's done. You can usually use like a hold fast if you need to hold it down, but we're just doing this super quick. So we've got our second hole is getting drilled. I don't have any tear out outside the lines right now. And you can use some kind of like a tape or something like that to actually mark the depth so that all your holes are even, or you can just drill it. It doesn't really matter. But you don't want to drill it too deep, or else you will have a big gap on the bottom, and that's not really that good. So I've got my third hole in this small mortise that I'm drilling real quick. You can also count your revolutions and count how many times you go around, and that'll also help with your depth. After you've gotten it all drilled out like that, you can go ahead and go back with a chisel now, and you can just start chopping away whatever is left, which isn't really that much, and it's less of a pain to get rid of whatever is left. Now the mortise tenon joint is very easy. It is strong joint. You can even make some of the tenons longer and then put dowels through them and really lock them in there where they will never come apart. I actually did that when I built our bunk beds for our house. I did a locking mortise and tenon, which the only way to get them apart is if you completely cut the part apart. If you ever have trouble with the mortise and tenon, say you can't get your tenon in very well, always look for rubbing or wear marks. Say you don't have a wear mark up near the edge of the tenon but lower on the tenon, your tenon might actually be a little bit too wide. You may have cut it incorrectly and have a wider spot on it, and then you can take a chisel, just shave a little bit of wood off, and it should be able to slip right in. But say you can actually not get it to go into the hole. You actually look for a wear mark inside the hole, and then if you have that point, you go ahead, just take your chisel, shave a little bit off. Don't ever shave too much off. You can always take more wood away than you can add on. So it's always easier to go a little bit at a time, and then eventually you can slip it all together and get a nice tight fitting mortise and tenon. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys found this useful. As always, look for daily videos. Leave comments, likes, thumbs ups, whatever. Subscribe. I'll see you guys later.